He was in attendance for Game 6 in Edmonton. He also beat me he didn't beat me. He won the match we played in our round of golf on Saturday. It was a nail biter though, Frank.
It was good. Tyler's dad came to play, and it was nice day.
Where'd you play?
Victoria, just down in the River Valley.
Oh, very nice.
And then the Oilers came to play that night. Frank, what impressed you the most about the Oilers Game 6 victory?
Pure and total dominance from the second period puck drop on. They flattened the Vancouver Canucks like a pancake, and they were in the driver's seat for the first time. That was their clear best game of the series. The scoreboard indicated how lopsided it was. And for a series that's been all 1-goal games, you're thinking that might be the recipe to help break it open. And then if you're the Oilers, you get kind of some more good news that Brock Boeser, the leading goal scorer in the playoffs and certified Oiler killer, 9 goals in 10 games against the team this season, is out. So there's all sorts of reasons to feel confident. Tyler, you and I debated earlier today on Daily Faceoff Live which team is actually feeling the pressure the most, which one should be. And I think it's a more fascinating article or argument than some people might imagine.
Well, what do you think?
I think it's dead split down the middle. I mean, you could look at it from the Oilers' perspective and say, this was a cup or bust season, as Leon Draisaitl said. You're now facing Game 7 against a team that's beaten you 7 times so far this year, and you need to come through to not make it to at least the conference final in a year in which you had, compared to the Rangers, compared to the Dallas Stars, probably even the Florida Panthers, you had the most preferable route to the conference final, to the Final Four, and you might not be able to get it done. It'd be an absolute indictment from where these two teams started at the start of this year. But if you look at it from the other perspective, which is the Canucks view, you could say, well, they had a lead of 1-0, 2-1, and 3-2 in the series. They were staring down a kill shot of the Oilers in Game 6 and came up with their worst game so far. And they're a team that, regardless of whether you think they're better or worse, finished 5 points ahead of the Oilers in the standings and crushed them in the season series. Should be up to them to get the job done on home ice in a city that quite literally burns itself down. Where do you come out on that?
So here's my thing. Let's say, again, whatever side loses tonight, a week from now, Canucks fans, I think, can sit there and go, wow, Rick Tocchet comes in, changes the culture, we win the division, and despite the fact Pettersson no-showed and Boeser was hurt for Game 7, and we didn't have Demko, we made it to Game 7 of round 2. We're right there. I think there's enough positives to pull. If the Oilers lose tonight, a week from now, talk to an Oilers fan, they're not going to be like, well, what a fun season. Yeah. They'll be like, holy shit, we're further away than when we started the year. How is this possible? I just think the heartbreak from an Oilers perspective, the heartbreak potential is massively higher than the heartbreak potential from Vancouver. And the long-term outlook of the Canucks will still be positive at puck drop next season. For the Oilers, if you don't tonight,
like, so you have gotten then through a season of playoffs in which your $11.6 million player didn't show up at all. You will have had a completely average playoff run from Quinn Hughes, and your goalie, who has never strung together a healthy full season, played 1 playoff game, 60 minutes, 59 minutes and change. You don't think those are legitimate questions to ask? I'm not trying to spin it in a different direction. And I do think that the stakes are much higher for the Oilers. But what I'm saying is there's still a lot on this from the Canucks perspective based on all of the questions that then need to be answered on the back end of it.
Yeah, I like this comment from Maynard, who said Vancouver has numerous built-in excuses. And I think that's just it for me. Like, if you're Vancouver, you can sit there and go, but. If you're Edmonton, it's what? What's the excuse for not beating the hell out of this Canucks team tonight? Like, there isn't one. This is your cup year. It's cup or bust, like Leon said. And to me, you had this easy path, and you have a series now where you didn't play a truly good to great hockey game until Game 6. And you sit there if you're the Oilers and you go, if we didn't get it done when this was our path, you're never getting it done.
Yeah. I've been around way too long to say that that's a fallacy. Like, that is always the thought process and the negative that flows through you because you think this was our best team, our best shot. I also was there when the Washington Capitals were winning President's trophies and losing to the Montreal Canadiens in round 1 as the 8 seed. I saw some incredible St. Louis Blues teams that did nothing in the playoffs until they won a game 7 on the road in the Stanley Cup final to get their first franchise Stanley Cup. I saw the Pittsburgh Penguins, after going to back-to-back Stanley Cup finals in 2008 and 9 and winning 1, walk through a period of 7 years of absolute misery and disaster. And then when they didn't have their best team, they win back-to-back years. I mean, I'm not kidding. Sometimes there's no rhyme or reason for this. And why the Oilers haven't gotten very many depth contributions, I can't answer that. Why some years you can't score an even strength goal and only can score on the power play, I don't know. Even within this series, these two things have flip-flopped. The Oilers couldn't score at even strength to save their life to start this series, only scoring on the power play, and now all of a sudden they can't score on the power play. So it's like golf. When you figure out one part of your game, since you brought it up earlier, you putt the lights out, you can't get off the tee for anything. You get off the tee, you can't hit a wedge shot to save your life. It's just, that's how life works. That's how everything works. So if you want to speak in definitives, be my guest. It makes for great shows. But it's game 7. I can't speak in any definitives.
Because, and that's the kind of beauty of this. And we just had Jason Demers on, and the last time Demers played in a game 7, it was Stars Blues, the year the Blues won the Stanley Cup. They were down 3-2 in that series. They get a 4-1 win to force a game 7, and then they win in double overtime of game 7 that year to keep their playoff run alive. Like, there are these kind of defining moments in a run, and sometimes even when hope feels minimal, like it kind of was when the Oilers lost game 5, you find these teams just find a way to gut it out. So I am generally optimistic about
Let
the Oilers.
me remind you of another one. This because I just thought of this. And it kind of feels a little bit like that. Well, I get 2 memories. One is, I think the Oilers right now are the Anaheim Ducks of 2017.
I thought the exact same thing. Because the Oilers of Vancouver, right? Where it's like this young team who's coming through and basically have nothing to lose. And Anaheim has all these guys and they're expected to win.
And what happened in that game 7? The Oilers got worked.
2-0, I think the final was.
So then the other thing I think of is 2017 Eastern Conference Final, upstart Ottawa Senators team going against the defending Cup champ Pittsburgh Penguins. Game 7, the Sens have no business going on this miracle run, and they take the Penguins to double OT. They're one shot away from knocking off the defending champs and going to the Cup final, and the Penguins' best players find a way. I tend to think that in these moments when you need it more than ever, that's when the best players show up. That's when you get a goal from Patrick Kane in the clutch. That's when you get a goal from whoever it might be. There's a reason why these guys earn that money. And when you needed it in game 6 with your season on the line, you get a 3-point second period from Connor McDavid.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
So I just to flip it onto the Vancouver side of things, Frank. Obviously, Elias Pettersson was basically invisible for the majority of the series. There's 2 assists in back-to-back games, but with that, they've moved Lindholm away from Joshua and Garland, who was their best line in the series, and now they've basically been invisible too. Do you think the Pettersson move at the lineup the Lindholm move to play with Pettersson has benefited the Canucks more or less?
I think it's ultimately going to benefit them less, but it's really odd because, like, think about what Rick Tocchet did with his lineup for game 5. Okay. Last time we were here in Vancouver, because he wants to try and get Pettersson going, he takes his lines and he stacks up the top two, and he spread them out initially because he wanted to get more to try and compete with the Oilers having McDavid and Draisaitl on separate lines, right? They're thinking if we got to go head to head with them, we want to at least spread around the wealth so that we have more depth. Then he chunks together two really good lines, or theoretically on paper. And here's what happened in game 5. Their fourth line had the best game. Like, help it make sense, right? That's what happened. So I think they got away with it in 5. They got crushed in 6. And I think on the whole, on the balance, it's probably better if they go back to what worked. But I'll be real curious to see what kind of leash he has on everything tonight. You can't afford to sit back through a whole game and say, yeah, you know what? We're just going to see this through and see what happens.
Okay, a couple more for you here. I have like a game 7 kind of checklist in my mind, and it's partially things I think will happen, partially things I think need to happen for the Oilers. 1, power play gets 1 or 2. I think they've missed on 10 in a row. They've seen the adjustments the Canucks are making. Now they've had 2 games try work around the adjustments, and to their credit, I think they were much better in game 6 than they were in game 5. So I think the power play bounces back. I think Stuart Skinner is solid. Not great, but not bad. He's exactly what they need. And they get a depth goal from somebody. I think the depth, again, bottom 6 has been so quiet. Someone pops one. My money will be on Warren Fogle tonight to do that. Frank, what are some things you're looking for tonight from an Oilers perspective that'll fuel them to victory? Keys to victory, if you might.
Oh, I think the first one you hit on it. If they go 0-4 on the power play again, I'll be very surprised if they win this game. 2 is in the same vein. They have to play with some discipline. I think they've done a pretty good job of that this season, or this series, I should say. There haven't been too many moments where it feels like they lost themselves. And 3 is they've done such a good job of defending in front of both of their goalies this series. The fact that they limited the Canucks to 9 shots through 2 periods, don't let them get to Stuart Skinner. We still don't really know, has Skinner found himself yet, because the Canucks never asked. So if that is the case, how does Skinner react in a building that's been nightmarish all season long for him from start to finish?
Yeah. Last one I have for you then. We know Chris Knobloch, he played the shit out of Connor McDavid, and that is about the least bright way you can phrase that. But he played the shit out of Connor McDavid early, was able to dial back his minutes for a bit. But McDavid's high in this series is 29-42. Over or under that tonight?
I can't answer that because I don't know how the game's going to go. I think it's purely based on moment, opportunity. Are you pressing? Are you up? Whatever if they're up, like, I think you're going to see a little bit less of McDavid, not because they don't want to push the pace, but because, like, if we're all being honest too, like, there have been a few defensive lapses from McDavid in this series that have not helped the Oilers. So my guess would be, just as I framed it the way heading into the season, this is a burn the boats type year. If Connor McDavid's left leg is hanging off at the end of this, you're playing him until the wheels fall off. So you're going to be living and dying by your best players. And I just can't help but think, I wrote this story today on dailyfaceoff.com, just how amazing this season series has been. This series has lived up to the hype in every sense of the word. 5 1-goal games out of the 6, plenty of drama, crazy lineup choices and decisions. But the Canucks were able to, starting with game 1 of the season, opening night, 8-1 win. They thrashed the Oilers 3 times in 27 days, outscoring them 18-6, culminating with November 6th. Jay Woodcroft thrown out. The next day, Jack Campbell hits waivers. From October all the way through, the Vancouver Canucks have been pulling at the thread and can completely unravel the Edmonton Oilers season tonight. However, if you're the Oilers, you're thinking, this is it. This is our opportunity to vanquish this team and this season series once and for all. What's it going to be?
What is it going to be? Frank will be in attendance for Game 7 tonight between the Oilers and Canucks. Thanks for hopping on quickly, Frank.
See ya,
See you
Frank.
guys.
What's up, Nation citizens? If you like that video, then you need to be subscribed to the Oilers Nation YouTube. Podcasts, live shows, exclusive interviews, and analysis. Everything you need from your favorite voices at Oilers Nation. And you don't want to miss any of it, so hammer that subscribe button.